Welcome back to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. Welcome back. Welcome. Good morning. Whatever you want to say. You can join us on the Car Doctor program here every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and where we talk about cars, car repair, sometimes safe driving, and this time we're going to talk about something a little bit more interesting. What happens when your car gets in a crash and your insurance company, you have to work with your insurance company, and maybe your car's been totaled and maybe you didn't get the price you wanted to get? With us is Michael Parsons. Michael, good morning and welcome to the Car Doctor program.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, tell us who you are and what you do before we get into this whole thing about cars and trying to negotiate with insurance companies.
Not a problem. My name is Michael Parsons, and I run a company called Source One Financial Corporation. We're an auto finance company located in Braintree, Massachusetts. Because we're a motor vehicle finance company, we have hundreds of total losses a year, and so we end up negotiating with the insurance company hundreds of times a year.
And which is different than the average person that may maybe negotiate with an insurance company maybe once or twice in their lifetime. You guys do it hundreds of times a year, right?
That is correct.
So
we become
in theory, you guys are way better at it than I am.
That is correct.
And when you do this, one of the things, sometimes people will come to me occasionally and they'll say, I was in a bad car crash and, I'm okay, but my car got totaled. And I'll look at some of the things that the insurance companies discount automatically, and it'll be some odd things like, well, it was a smoker's car. And the person's like, well, I never smoked. Why did they discount that? There's a lot of little things that people just never see, right?
Well, that's correct. I mean, what most people don't know is that the insurance company actually conducts two appraisals. One appraisal is just determining that the car is total loss from its physical damage. The second appraisal is kind of amazing. What occurs is their appraiser conducts a pre-accident condition report based upon 11 components of the car. They look at things like the carpet, the seats, the headliner, the glass, the steel on the exterior, the dashboard, and then tires. And so in looking at those 11 components, 99% of the time, the insurance company declares your car to be normal wear, which sounds fair. Your car probably is normal wear, in your own opinion. But what they don't tell you is that they declare every single comparable vehicle to be dealer ready. And so you automatically lose approximately 12% of the value of your car, 100% of the time. So believe it or not, there are guidelines that the appraiser uses, but those guidelines were written back in 1988. And those guidelines are no longer applicable to modern cars because it speaks to things such as burn holes in the upholstery, or burn holes in the carpet, or burn holes in the headliner. And because of that disparity of your car being subject to an inspection, but none of the comparables being subject to an inspection, the insurance company deducts 12% of the value of your car and gives you a relatively low-ball offer.
Well, that's pretty amazing. The other thing is, a used car dealer or a new car dealer will tell you they live and die by Carfax reports. What that helps determine the value. But some people say that when the car has been repaired, it really shouldn't have a real effect on the value of the car. But sometimes when a car becomes totaled after it was repaired, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, that previous repair impacts the value when the car is declared as a total, right?
No, there's no question. If a car has a significant previous accident, it's going to face some degree of quote-unquote diminished value when it gets appraised the next time. So as you're looking at the appraisal that you're receiving from the insurance company, you can't really trust it. Most of the time, the insurance company will give you a report called a CCC1 market valuation report, which will be anywhere between 12 and 18 pages long and contain a whole bunch of comparable vehicles. It's a very long, very confusing process. On a process that should be incredibly easy. What the process should be, you totaled your car, you look at the NADA, National Auto Dealers Association, retail value to purchase a new car of similar year, make, and model, and that's what they should pay, because that's what's done in Rhode Island. But here in Massachusetts, what occurs is the insurance company goes through a long and labored process of attempting to cheat you out of a quick 12% simply by declaring your car normal wear.
And I've been in this situation, I guess, once or twice in my life, and I've gone back to the insurance company. Let's face it, insurance companies, their jobs are to try to pay as little as possible. That's what that's what they do. Their job isn't to pay you more than what your car's worth. Their job is to pay you as little as they can. That's what they do. And I've gone back and I've said, look, I went to NADA guys, I went to Kelley Blue Book, I went to someplace else, looked up the price. Then I went to 5 sites where pretty much exactly similar cars were for sale. These are what they were selling for. I found a couple that were sold and they were similar prices, and that sometimes is enough to get insurance companies to rethink it. But you guys take it a step further with what you're trying to do now, right?
Well, yes, we do, because when you do that, you've set a ceiling on your claim. And so you're never going to get 100% of what you want. You're going to get close, and so they have set a floor with their initial appraisal, and you've set a ceiling by going back to them with comparables and the NADA value. And their job is to, you could be correct, that their job in theory is to negotiate with you. But it's not to negotiate with you. It's to follow the terms of the policy and to follow the terms of the regulations. And the regulations are clear. What you're supposed to get is NADA retail value. That's clearly in the regulations. You're supposed to get what you originally paid less depreciated value. And that's clearly in the regulations. And so as you take a look at what the insurance company is doing, they're trying to take something that should be a fixed process and turn it into a negotiation to save a few dollars. What my company has done is something entirely new and different. We take the initial offer, we reserve our rights, and we bring suit against the insurance company in 100% of the cases. And in doing that, we always get, at very least, the NADA retail value of the car.
Now, do you do that on behalf of the customer, or because you're the folks that lent the money to buy the car?
Well, if you think about it, the customer and I are joined at the hip.
Right.
Whatever he gets, is going to come to me to pay down his debt. So I'm always looking for my customer to get the most that they can reasonably get for their insurance claim.
Right.
That way, I get to zero, which is really kind of nice. But the real reason I started this process is I kept on watching individuals that I knew come to me and say, hey, I'm being cheated. This doesn't feel right. They're low by a few $1,000s. And only because I've been subject to hundreds of lawsuits that my discovery from insurance companies has led me to know exactly what they're doing. I shared with you the guidelines that are used by the insurance company for different years of cars. And you had a chance to read through them, and they're fairly silly guidelines. If you can tell me what the difference between a few minor holes, burns, or scratches is somehow different than no significant holes, burns, or scratches. That's counting angels on the head of a pin. But it's how insurance companies use the pre-accident inspection report to lowball consumers.
Yeah, wasn't there something in there about pets, like carrying pets or something?
Yes, I mean,
yeah.
Certainly, stain marks from pets, scratches in the seats from pets, all those things in theory could affect the value of the car. But since they don't look at any of the comparables, even though your car carried a pet, doesn't mean that none of the comparables carried a pet either.
Right.
And so it's this unilateral decision on the part of the insurance companies to declare every single comparable car, regardless from where it's being sold, to being this ideal. And then looking at you and then saying to you, well, your car is normal wear. The part that's difficult for me is when they say your car is normal wear, they actually suggest that there's no value impact to you for your car being marked normal wear. However, what they're actually doing is taking the cars that they've marked dealer ready and decreasing their value to bring them down to normal wear. So it isn't a somewhat complex methodology. It's an intensely complex methodology the insurance company is using just to save a few dollars.
And you shared with me a new website, claimmax.com, claim-max, maxx.com. And in this website, people can go in and try to find out a little bit more information and try to come up with a way to get all of the value their vehicle's worth. Now, do you do that? Is this something you'll do for anyone who has a total vehicle? And do you take a piece of, I guess, the additional revenue or the additional value that the person might get over what the original insurance company offer was?
Well, no. That's the intent of ClaimMax is really just as a public service. I was receiving so many telephone calls from so many auto body shops asking for assistance. We don't look to make any revenue from it. It's not something that's profit intent. The intent is really simple: to tell the consumer or the insured, hey, take the offer they're giving you today. Reserve your rights. We give a reservation of rights letter on the website, and then sue them for the balance. No insurance company wants to get sued for $1,500 or $2,500 that they shorted you on a claim. Well, go to small claims, and I believe that the judge is going to give you the fair market value of the car.
Well, you brought up a good point. You sue the insurance company. How many of those cases actually go to court?
None.
Never. That's what I assumed. Yeah, because just for the reason you said, it isn't worth the trouble to send a lawyer and a representative of the insurance company to court for what could be an hour, but it could be 2 days, depending on what's going on in the court system.
That's correct, especially in small claims. I mean, you're just a consumer. You're just a person who's been in an accident. This is supposed to be your insurance company. And they're going to this great length to try and convince you your car is worth less. And the answer is, it isn't worth less. You didn't happen to choose that you were drinking a large Dunkin' Donuts coffee when you got rear-ended and it spilled all over the seats. Those weren't your choices. You bought a car, you maintained it, you paid for your insurance. You did everything you were supposed to do. And then suddenly your insurance company is trying to lowball your offer. I believe that negotiating with a cheater never works. The people at the insurance company have been trained that their job is to make an offer that is fair, and they believe what they're doing is fair. there's no way to convince that first-line person that you're talking to that what they're doing is wrong.
And we keep using the word offer, and that's what it like any negotiation. That first time they come back to you and say your car's worth $21,251, it really is just an offer at that point. That doesn't mean that that's it, and there's no place to go from there.
No, you are entirely correct, and it all depends on because we know this. It all depends on your age and what town you come from, and your educational background, and your ability to negotiate what you're going to get, and that's just not right.
Well, absolutely, and some of the old some of the old tricks just don't work anymore. It used to be you'd get an offer from your insurance company and say you'd argue with them a little bit and say, well, I want to talk to your supervisor, and that all of a sudden would bump the price up a little bit because they didn't want to have. They knew they had a window in there that they could adjust the price. But now, looking at your website, first off, you're dealing with industry experts, and you guys have a background in this. So you in some cases you could have way more experience in this than the person that came out to appraise the car in the first place.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, we literally see hundreds of total losses a year, and the sad part is so often that the appraiser, who the insurance company is sent out to conduct this pre-accident appraisal on your car, doesn't even bother to look at the guidelines. May not have ever seen the car. Currently, Geico here in Massachusetts is actually conducting the inspections by pictures from New York. So how are they supposed to tell whether a stain on the front seat of your car was related to the accident or not related to the accident, or because it's been raining out for the last several days?
And the window was broken.
They do,
yeah.
Because the window was broken,
yeah,
or the skylight was broken. The answer is they're going to mark your car normal wear. Period. End of report. Okay, well over 90% of the time, and now you're in a fight. If you want to try and believe that you can negotiate your way through it, God bless. I've tried to do it hundreds and hundreds of times, possibly thousands. I gave up. My methodology is way simpler and seems to create way better results. Simply say no, thank you very much. I'll take the money that you're offering me today. I reserve my rights, and I bring suit. And I suggest that most people bring suit in small claims court, because a small claims judge is just a decent local person whose job it is to try and settle things.
Right.
The insurance company doesn't want to send somebody out for 2 hours. You're right. On a $1,000 claim, you're going to get a telephone call offering you basically what you think the car is worth.
Right. So I guess to summarize here, first off, you can go to the website, but if you had to just summarize what you just said, I got in a car crash today. My car was presumed to be totaled. An appraiser came out. I got an offer. Go over the steps one more time, what I should do when I call my insurance company back up and they say, well, we're going to send you a check for $15,000. You said...
What I would tell someone today to do the following. A, go to claimmax.com, CLAIM -MAXX.com. Watch the video. After you watch the video, download the conditioning appraisal, the pre-accident conditioning appraisal, and as soon as possible, either have your body shop or yourself just complete that pre-accident appraisal. So that you're doing things contemporaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Contact the insurance company with the native retail value of your car, something that, once again, the Claim Max will give you, and say, this is the price. Don't negotiate. When they say we're not going there, simply give them a reservation of rights letter something that you can find from the website. Take their money, reserve your rights, and then sue them in small claims court. That simple. The only way to convince the insurance companies to stop this bad behavior is one of two ways. Either A, sue them so frequently that they give up on the scheme, or B, have our state regulators actually step in. And the downside to our state regulators is our state regulators have not taken action against an automobile insurance company in more than 20 years. So you can file as many complaints with the Commonwealth as you want. They will not take any action on the market value of a car.
Well, Michael, I want to thank you for helping educate us. Again, the website is ClaimMax, CLAIM -Max, MAXX.com, and you can, just our conversation here, I learned a lot, but just like you said, you go on the website, it's a very simple, clear, easy to understand process. Like you said, if all it takes is filing I don't know, last time I went to small claims court, I think it was $15 or $30 to file a small claims court. Inexpensive to file for small claims court, and that could get you a couple $1,000s more back on the value of your vehicle for what really could amount to 30 minutes worth of work.
I won't say 30 minutes worth of work because you got to take the morning off from work to go to small claims, potentially.
Potentially,
but yeah. But for 4 hours worth of work, you should be able to get a couple of $1,000s.
Yeah. No, and I will say, and this is completely off the subject here, I did take a company in a small claims court once, and it was the small claims court also handled utility shutoffs and evictions, and it was the most miserable place to be. And I looked over at the people that I took to small claims court, which was a small office group, and they looked so miserable. At that point, I said, I don't care if I win or I lose. I just made their life miserable for 4 hours, and I felt way better about it. So, sometimes just, what you did to try to get 100%, you might not get everything you want, but sometimes at the end of the day, you feel better about it. So,
I don't want to say that every time that I'm sitting in court staring at an insurance company, I'm smiling. But I'm not ever sad. I can tell you I'm never sad.
There you go. Michael, thank you for taking a little time out of your Sunday morning, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you so much. Have a great holiday yourself.
All right.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
your time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Why don't we take a break, pay some bills? My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. You're listening on 95.9 WATD. If you want to give us a call, 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. We have a bunch of stuff to talk about when we come back, including, and I think I touched on this a little bit last week, a do-it-yourself alignment machine that's like $100. We'll talk about that when we come back. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. You're listening on 95.9 WATD. We'll be right back.
Gobble, gobble. It's that time of year again. Join the Boys and Girls Club of Marshfield on Thanksgiving morning for the 10th annual Marsh Vegas Turkey Trot. Walk, jog, or run. Your choice of a 2 or a 4 mile loop with family and friends. Don't forget Fido. This is a dog-friendly event as well. The trot starts at South River School at 7:30. All registered participants receive a stylish winter hat thanks to the generous sponsorship of Quirr Cars, and all finishers will collect a scrumptious apple pie, compliments of Roach Brothers at the finish line. Register now for the Turkey Trot at bgcmarshfield.org. Pre-registrants can pick up their bib and race swag on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday before the event at the club from 9 to 11 a.m. and Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Registration supports all ongoing efforts of the Boys and Girls Club of Marshfield to provide a safe, clean, and fun environment for kids. Can't wait to see you all on Thanksgiving morning.
Even car geeks and do-it-yourselfers rely on AAA to give them extra peace of mind on the road. AAA offers 24/7 roadside assistance, whether you're in your own vehicle, a friend's car, or even a rental. Combine that with great rates on insurance, hotel, gas, and dining savings, and discounts on 8,700 brands, and you're covered on and off the road. Get a special membership offer today at aaa.com/join. That's aaa.com/join.
This is my time. Hey guys, it's Lexi James.
And we're Crier Creek.
Twilight Showcase Radio, hosted by Sandy Stride and Keith James.
Tune into Twilight Showcase Radio Sundays on 95.9 WATD and 95.9 WATD.com.
Search for Twilight Showcase on Facebook.
And visit twilightshowcase.org.
Twilight Showcase, tonight from 8 to 10 on 95.9 WATD. Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program on 95.9 WATD. Our phone number is 781-837-4900. If you're a viewer of YouTube and you're also a viewer of cable TV, Motor Trend Channel, Motor Trend Channel is going away, and there was a lot of kind of odd conversation about it. The program I like, two programs I like on that channel are Roadworthy Rescues and Roadkill. And one of the things about Roadkill, and Roadkill's been around, and I think I got the best answers about what's going on with the Motor Trend Channel from the two hosts of Roadkill. Freiberger and Finnegan, they both did YouTube videos, and you kind of knew if you've been watching those channels for a while, if you're an automotive enthusiast or geek or whatever, you kind of noticed that a lot of the hosts have been branching out and starting their own YouTube channels, and they're like, well, I thought they were on Motor Trend. Why are they doing it? Well, because they must have known that, or they got an okay in their contracts that said they could start their own YouTube channel. And Mike Finnegan, who's had his own for a while, Finnegan's Garage, he must have negotiated that was okay to do. David Freiberger, who has been around a long time. David Freiberger was the editor of Hot Rod Magazine and a bunch of other magazines for a while. He's the one who actually hired Mike Finnegan. And Angus McKenzie said, you guys do some pretty funny stuff on video. Why don't you just go ahead and do it? But they were actually just employees. They did not own the Roadkill program. They just worked there, and so they had no real control over. They made the suggestions what to do, but they had no ownership of that product. So when the parent company said, we're going to discontinue the Motor Trend channel, they had really nothing they could say about it. So, it's just, I think it's just a matter of the company that owns the Motor Trend channel now is so big that, the little Motor Trend channel, if it made money at all, was just not really enough to even bother with, and probably had a fair amount of staff. And I know, talking to Brian Loans one time, he was doing something on the Motor Trend channel a couple of years ago, and they said their camera crew, just their GoPro crew, he said was like 4 or 5 people. So 4 or 5 people for GoPros, a couple more people for actual cameras. All of a sudden, then production. It's kind of a lot of people. And did it make money like Disney makes money? No, but I think it's owned by the same corporation. So, sad to see it go. I enjoyed the programs. I enjoyed Engine Masters. I really did like Roadkill, Roadworthy Rescue. Well, Derek from Vice Grip Garage kind of has his own channel, very successful with that. So I think most of them will be okay. The host you might like or watch on there, Tony Angelo, his program, he's doing a lot of things, but the problem with it, it's like any podcast, it's like even this radio program to a certain amount, you have to do stuff pretty regularly, and you have to put out content all the time. And Jesse knows more about content than I do because you have a very successful podcast. But isn't that true, Jesse? You got to put out content all the time for stuff to work, right?
Yeah, you have to remain consistent and, make sure you're posting on the same day every day and everything. So not every day, but
yeah.
As long as people know when to look for your podcast, that's kind of like the first rule of podcasting and live streaming is just have a schedule.
Have a schedule. And you can't put something up once every month and a half and expect it to be successful. You got to be consistent, right?
You got to be consistent for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just so many podcasts that they'll do 3 or 4 episodes and then disappear for 6 months and then come back with an episode and they're surprised that they get no listeners. So consistency is key with these things. We have Tom from Kingston on the line, speaking of being consistent.
Well, let's talk to Tom from Kingston. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, and happy Thanksgiving. Almost.
Also with you. Before I get to my question, talk about roadkill. Is that when the guy goes through the junkyards?
Not roadkill is. It could be, but roadkill is the two guys, David Freiberger and Finnegan, and usually they decide they're going to build. They find some junky car and it might have the stock engine in it, and then they decide to put nitrous and a supercharger on it, and then road trip it, somewhere to maybe a race or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah,
I mean that one, and the other one is the one where the guy goes through the junkyards and he'll point out a '64 Rambler,
right,
or something like that. And it's like, boy, I get excited over silly things like that.
Well, it's a lot to be said for it. I happen to the Roadworthy Rescue guy, Derek, who also has the Vice Grip Garage channel. I like his weird sense of humor where he talks about things like sparkulators and lightning hoses and nonsense like that. But on the other hand, he'll go out and he'll find and he should come here next to me in the carport next to me. There is a Grand Marquis that has been sitting for about 20 years, and it's just sort of sitting there. A couple of years ago, I actually tried to get it going, but the fuel pump was bad, but someone should rescue this car because it's basically just used as storage at this point, I think. But the idea that somebody, and that's where he gets some of the cars. And sometimes it's an interesting story. Sometimes it's a car that somebody was going to restore, and maybe someone passed away, or something happened, and this guy gets it going, and then tries to drive it back to his piece of property in Tennessee.
Oh, yes. Now I know what you're talking about.
And then what happens is it's sort of the breakdowns along the way that I find interesting because as it breaks down, I'm like, I'm saying to myself, I told you should have replaced that fuel pump, So
now the Grand Marquis, it has the fuel pump on the outside on the engine.
This one, the fuel pump is mounted up on the fuel rail. I kind of crawled under there and whacked on the side of it to see if I could get it to come to life, and it didn't. And that's where sometimes you end up with a gas tank out of a boat or a 5-gallon gas jug and an electric fuel pump and try to get enough fuel up to the engine to make it run. But but the idea of finding some of these cars, and they can be the weirdest combination of stuff, from a Volkswagen Beetle to a hot rod to kind of just a normal car to maybe something that's 60 years old. And I think all of that makes for interesting content to me. And unlike a lot of YouTube stuff, the Vice Grip Garage stuff can sometimes be really long. It can be a couple of hours sometimes, and and that goes against what everybody says about YouTube is it should be 30 minutes, no longer than that. Well, this guy's doing phenomenally well because he releases a new video every Friday. Like Jesse just said, you have to be consistent, do it on a regular basis. People go looking for it. He releases a new one every Friday, and they're sort of interesting. And my wife will sit there and watch it, and she'll be like, "I just like him because he's funny. He talks about dumb stuff, and he'll drop something on the ground, and he'll say something like, and she'll say to me, he sounds like you. He drops something on the ground and goes, well, I'll never see that again. Or it's finished-ish, it's not quite
finished. It reminds
but...
me of the other show that used to be on the radio down at the public radio. There's a Click and Clack.
Yep.
Out of Cambridge.
Oh, yeah.
I used to enjoy that. Just listen to the guy laugh, makes you
laugh. No. Tom and Ray always entertained my wife when she was listening. In fact, years ago, and this had to be 10 years ago now. Yeah. My wife and I were at a Red Sox game, and all of a sudden, this guy walks by and he goes, "Hey, John Paul, how you doing?" And my wife's like, "Who's that?" And I said, "That's Raymond Magliozzi." And she goes, "He knows you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, he does actually, yeah." So she's like, "Oh, I didn't know that," and she didn't know what he looked like or anything.
So, you're married to a celebrity. Okay?
Yeah, not even a little bit, but yeah, not even when it comes time to take out the trash.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the question I have, the guy that was just on, when you take an insurance company to court, you got to put down their address. So, say, for example, X insurance company, how do you find out the address that it will go to get the effect?
Ask them.
Ask who?
Ask the insurance company. When they send you the claim and they or you're on the phone with them and they say, by the way, if I want to correspond with you, what's the address for your office?
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, like he said, Geico does appraisals out of an office in New York.
So we would send it to New York.
Yeah.
Okay, I think they've gone up to $50. If not, it's more now.
Yeah, it could be, and small claims when it comes to automobiles, I think can do triple, or that's what it used to be. You could sue in small claims up to like 2,000, but for automobile related things, I think it can go up to $6,000.
Wow.
So
that's exciting because I've helped people in the past where they offered $800 as a total. They said because there was stains on the window, from the grandchildren when they have French fries from McDonald's.
Yeah.
They deducted for that, or there was a stain on the seat because stuff got spilled. It's like, hey, first of all, to get a replacement, it's like $2,200, and you're offering $800.
Right.
And we're able to get the person a little more money, which is great.
Yeah. No,
this
back
is
in
great information. Do you put this on the on Facebook or anything? When you're on there? Like that guy's website?
I can. I will.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
No, and it's kind of funny. Back in 2015, my wife got in a car crash, and her car got totaled, and the appraiser came out and looked at it because we just had it. It happened like a lot of crashes do. It happened walking distance to my house almost, and I had it sitting in the driveway, and the appraiser came out and he said to me, "Wow, this car is in really good condition." I said, "Except for it's totaled," and he goes, "Yeah, but I can look at it. It's in really good condition." And I said to him, "What you just said, I'm going to expect to see that in the appraisal."
Definitely a reflection,
because you just told me how good a condition this car is in, and I expect the appraisal to reflect that. And when we actually did get the appraisal and the settlement, I was actually perfectly happy with it. It was I had no reason to try to negotiate. And I think it's only because I kind of caught him sort of saying how good he thought the car, and I said, "Look, it's never been smoked in. It's never been this, it's never been that, low mileage, well maintained. Look at the paint, look at the interior, and there's no reason to think I should get less." And he goes, No, this car's in really good shape. And
so
I'm
sure if 2 weeks later, after that claim was in, you call looking for that person. "Oh, I'm sorry, he's no longer with us." They let him go.
You never know. You never know. But yeah, so it's one of those things that my advice to people is never accept the first offer, because it's just that's an offer. And bottom line is I sort of work for an insurance company, but an insurance company's job is to pay out as little as possible. That's what they're supposed to do. That's
sure.
They couldn't stay in business if they gave everybody, if your car was worth $10,000 and they said, you're from Kingston. We like people from Kingston. We're going to give you $20,000.
Right.
They can't stay in business. Their job is to try to pay as little as they can, to try to make as much profit as they can. And, it's the same thing, people talk about lawyers. And, I said to a lawyer one time, I said, well, your job's basically to say no. That's what you do. Somebody asks you something, you say no. And she looked at me and said, well, my job is to protect our client. And I said, by doing what? Saying no.
Exactly. Sure.
And she said, yeah. She said, I guess you're right. That is sort of my job. And I said, I'm not saying anything bad. I said, but that's your job. And, and I'm not saying anything bad about insurance companies. That's their job. Their job is to, but if you can figure out a way to get what's owed to you based on
Thank you. Exactly.
what is reasonable, not more than what the car's worth, not because you're a nice guy from Kingston, but because that's what I was paying insurance money for. I was paying money to cover the value of the vehicle if it gets totaled, and I want the value to be based on an actual value and not because the typical value is based on kind of a conglomerated mixture of vehicles from, around the world, and it says, well, 50% of the cars have kids in them, and kids cause wear and tear, and the other 25% have dogs in them, and they cause wear. So we're going to say that your vehicle is worth this because your vehicle could have had kids, dogs, popcorn, and alligators in it. I don't know.
I wanted to call the show and interject that also goes for people who have damage done to their homes. God forbid a fire or something like that.
Yeah.
And the insurance company wants to settle out as cheap as possible. But they hire I forget what the term is, that person. They'll go out and itemize everything.
Right.
Saying, you had a flat screen TV, you had a refrigerator, how old it was.
It's funny you were saying that. I was trying to think of the same name of whatever that's called, where you hire a company to come out and do that. And in that case, they actually get a little piece of what they recover.
Yeah, they get like 2%, 3%.
Yeah. Where this was pretty interesting, where his website, you go in, you fill it out, and they just tell you how to do it. So
yeah, that's exciting. That's why I said if you put it on there, because I'm not near paper and pen.
Don't worry,
when I go
it'll be there.
Line,
it'll be there when the podcast gets posted. I will put more information about Michael and his website. So
that's awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, have a good Thanksgiving.
You as well. Take care. Bye-bye.
John.
Our phone number again, 666. Where did the 6 come from? Our phone number, 781-837-4900. 781-837-4900. Why don't we take a quick break, and when we come back, a couple of recalls in the news, and can you do an alignment at home in your driveway? Well, we'll find out when we come back. My name's John Paul. This is the Car Doctor program. You're listening on 95.9 WATD. We'll be right back.
Even car geeks and do-it-yourselfers rely on AAA to give them extra peace of mind on the road. AAA offers 24/7 roadside assistance, whether you're in your own vehicle, a friend's car, or even a rental. Combine that with great rates on insurance, hotel, gas, and dining savings, and discounts on 8,700 brands, and you're covered on and off the road. Get a special membership offer today at aaa.com/join. That's aaa.com/join.
Experience the magic of printmaking at the James Library and Center for the Arts in Norwell. From December 6th to January 18th, visit the James for Lasting Impressions, an art exhibition featuring over 13 of the South Shore's finest artists from coastal printmakers. Explore a stunning variety of techniques like etchings, solar plates, and monoprints, all in one beautiful gallery. And don't miss the opening reception on Friday, December 6th from 6 to 8 p.m. All are welcome to attend this free event, meet the artists, and enjoy light bites. For more details, visit jameslibrary.org. That's the James Library and Center for the Arts, where culture and community meet. And make sure to bring your car to Joseph's Garage in Norwell, just down the road from the James. Have your oil changed, tires checked, get an inspection sticker, or just gas at Joseph's Garage. Joseph's Garage now offers golf pay at their pumps. Hey there, folks. It's Quinn Kelly reminding you to tune in Sunday night at 5 for the South Shore's first voice in sports talk radio, The Sports Exchange. Unmatched coverage of local high school action as well as a relatable voice on all things Boston Pro Sports. We've got you covered live at 5 every Sunday night. Have a question for our host, missed last week's show, or just want to share a great sports story? You can find us on Twitter at SE on WATD. But remember, mark your calendar, folks, and we'll see you Sunday night at 5 for the Sports Exchange on 95.9 WATD.
Make an appointment Sunday morning at 11 for John Paul, the Car Doctor, on 95.9 WATD. Now, back to the Car Doctor.
And welcome back to the Car Doctor program. If you're traveling this week, we usually do travel projections from Wednesday to Sunday. This year we're doing them from Tuesday to Monday. Sort of the reason is people are taking a little bit more time off or working kind of their flex hours or work from home hours and seem to be taking a little bit more advantage of that Tuesday, 2 days before Thanksgiving. So a lot of people are going to be traveling. I think it's 80 million people are going to be traveling. Most of them are going to be traveling by car. So expect the roads to be pretty busy. Expect Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, probably in the Boston area to be the most crowded, and then probably traffic will kind of lighten up a little bit as it goes on. I mentioned something about, can you do an alignment at home? Well, anybody who's ever tried with sticks and strings where you try to attach a couple of straight sticks to the front wheels and run some strings and try to run the strings back to the back wheels and figuring the back wheels are straight, you can kind of do it. But a young guy, and we might have to get him on the program, came up with something called Gyroline, Gyraline. It's basically a little cradle that you put your phone into, and your phone has if you have an iPhone especially, it has among other things a level in it. So I think it uses the same technology in the phone for the level as it does for this thing, and there's an app you download, and it is able to actually convert what your phone is doing into inches or degrees. So one thing you do need is, just like a real alignment machine, you do need to be on a perfectly level surface. And they actually recommend find a driveway that's perfectly level and check it with like a big 6-foot long level to make sure everything's level the way it should be. But even if it isn't, and my driveway is not level, you can still measure toe in and toe out, which is, in a lot of cases, one of the only things you can adjust in some cars. And, if the wheels are toed out, so the tires are pointing outward, you're going to wear the inside of the tires. If they're toed in, you're going to wear the outside of the tires, and it's going to affect handling. Toed in, it's going to be squirrely. Toed out, just like skiing, if you're a skier, you put your tips of your skis out, it slows you down. Kind of does the same thing with your car. And I checked it, and I checked on a couple of cars, and I got to think, one car had, I could feel feathered wear, which is typical of a car that is towed out a little bit, and I checked, and it said it was towed out. I checked my own car, it said it was 0, which is exactly where I want it to be. I even go with just a smidge in, because as you drive down the road, it tends to push tires out, so it kind of gets out to 0. But pretty clever little device. I think it's like it was $80 plus, and the app is free for a year, I think. And then then if you want to continue with it. But if you're somebody who's tinkering at home, or you're somebody who's building a car at home, I was looking at two local companies I like to look at. Factory 5 Racing, Dave Smith and his group, they were just out at SEMA with a bunch of their cars, which is always really cool. And, but the builders, the people who build the Factory 5 Cobra type cars at home, being able to put a suspension system together and be able to do your own alignment, even if it's not 100% perfect, but good enough to get to the alignment shop where you're not going to cause any wear and tear. And I got to tell you, I think it's pretty good. My next step with it is, and this is where I wish I was back up north where I know more people, is I want to go into a tire store alignment shop or something while they're doing an alignment with this thing and say, hey, can I compare this $100 tool to your $20,000 alignment machine and see how accurate it is? Which is what I did with a battery tester. Someone sent me a battery tester to try out, and I tried it against the AAA battery tester that we use, but then I also went to the local AutoZone store or Advanced or whatever's around the corner over here, and I went and tested about a half a pallet of bad batteries. I wanted to see how bad they really were, because they actually marked on them, what they tested at. Now, who knows how long they were sitting, but it was pretty accurate for a tool that cost, I think the refurbished one was, I think it was $29 or something. So pretty clever little tool for not a lot of money, and I've used it a couple of times to the point where, I use it on my own cars all the time just to make sure that my battery's in good shape, because the battery in the car that we drive back and forth north to south here, that battery's getting a little bit old. It's a 2018 car, so that battery's 6 years old now. Average life of a battery is 5 years. In Florida hot weather, it can be 2. In New England, 5-ish years is what is typical. But yeah, we've had a couple of cold days. I was talking to my neighbor from Maine. He just got here a little bit ago. He works at a boatyard. He has a little boatyard, and he's like, yeah, just before I was leaving, it was 18 degrees outside. Pretty cold weather. So, hey, Jesse, you, to use the term the kids use, you dropped a second album?
I did.
And is it really an album?
It is, yeah. It's 13 full songs. It actually has a genre this time around, so it's a step in the right direction.
And what is the genre?
I would say synthwave. It's got kind of like an 80s feel to it, but with modern sounds.
And where can people find it?
Everywhere, yeah, wherever you listen to music. So literally all of the apps. So at work, all of my delivery drivers and all of the employees, they all use these different kind of weird. They don't use Spotify or iTunes. They use these like strange free apps. And just out of curiosity, just search for myself on those. And I'm even on the weird apps. So if you listen to music on some strange weird app, I'm probably there too. Just search my name.
Now, what's a weird app? Give me a weird app name.
Yeah, they use one that's like called Musi, like music without the C.
Oh yeah.
So that's one of the free ones. I'm there. And then there was another one. I can't remember the name of it. It was Deezer. So a whole bunch of stuff I've never heard before.
Deezer I've heard. Yeah, Deezer also carries podcasts.
Oh, do they? I wonder if we're there too. Probably.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So everywhere that you can find the music, it is available. So.
And this is your second
album,
foray into releasing music in a pretty short period of time.
Correct, yeah. So my last one was kind of a soundtrack to the podcast, so that was more like horror music and, I don't know, strange backing music and kind of classical stuff, and it was all over the place. So I was like, you know what, just so people don't think I'm an absolutely insane person, or they don't learn that secret about me, let me release a more cohesive album with an actual theme to it. So that's what we dropped there. But it's available. It's called, I let my brother name it, which was a mistake. So it's called Night Fist Speedwalk. And it's available in all stores. So you can go search for Night Fist Speedwalk. I can guarantee you it's the only thing that pops up.
Well, that is an odd name, but there's something, what were you going to call it? Wrecking Ball?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was coming up with some names. I was like, let me defer this to my weird brothers, and they'll come up with a strange name, and they did.
Perfect. So, well, congratulations, because not everybody can do that.
Thanks. I'll send you a link so you can listen to it.
I will, on a weird app.
That's the way to do it.
Why not? Yeah. Speaking of weird things, Jeep Grand Cherokee was recalled over incorrectly programmed instrument cluster. Huh? But yeah, just under 7,500 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokees and Grand Cherokee L's have to have their instrument panels upgraded. And brand new cars, Hyundai recalls 2025 Tucson and Santa Cruz vehicles could roll away. The recall stems from an improperly routed wiring assembly that may contact the mechanical release of a shift lever mechanism. Kia is recalling 63,000 electric vehicles over potentially damaged charging unit. Well, that's kind of a funny one because it is the 12-volt battery that doesn't charge up properly, and every electric car needs a 12-volt battery, and the 12-volt battery is what's needed to get the real electric battery to work and do what it's supposed to. Jesse, do we have another call?
We do. It's Tom from Pembroke.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought I saw something pop up there. Let's talk to Tom. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, John. Another week, another Hyundai recall, huh?
Well, it seems to be, and in fact, there is 1, 2, 3 Hyundai recalls. The other one was $145,000 for some other kind of charging unit thing, and it affected Hyundai and Genesis. So yeah. Same
thing. Yeah. Just getting back to the insurance thing real quick. I had an accident a few years ago. It was weather related, and I fought it in court or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
The points there. And you have your own insurance company up against you. You're paying them, and they're fighting to keep the surcharge on there with the judge. Even the judge told her to be quiet.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes. Yeah, I went to a surcharge hearing once. I got hit at a someplace. I forget. It was pretty minor, but I got surcharged. Oh, I remember. I was at an intersection in Rockland, and I got hit by a snowplow. And the guy admitted that he had been out plowing all night, hadn't gotten any sleep, and I think he forgot the plow stuck out 4 feet from the front of his truck, and carved up the front of my vehicle with the snowplow. And when the police officer showed up, he said, "Well, you were pretty close to the middle of the road." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I was going around a car that turned right. I did." And I said, "And this guy went right on red and didn't stop, and his plow." I said, "I don't blame him. I mean, he's been plowing all night. He's tired, and he forgot he had a plow on the front of his truck." But they charged me 100% for the crash, and then I went to court, and they repealed it and went completely the opposite direction. So it makes sense to argue.
Yeah, and I got a favorable approval, and they still try to charge me with the surcharge when my policy came up.
Yep.
We didn't get the notice, they say. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, thanks for calling in. We're about out of time, but happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right, take care. Yeah, we need to go. That music means we're just about out of time. So until next week, make sure you wear your seatbelt, drive safely, be good to your car, and if you see an emergency vehicle by the side of the road, slow down or move over. It saves lives, and happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.